Hi grade 1s and grade 2s, welcome back to our remote art lessons for term 4. Not long and we'll be back in our school. Today for our art lessons we are going to be drawing a scarecrow in a pumpkin patch. So follow the steps in this video and we'll be able to draw a scarecrow. What you need today is paper to draw on, a grey lead to draw with. Remember, I'm using a marker, but just so you can see it on the videos. You can't see the grey leads on the videos very well. I would like you to use a grey lead. In case you make a mistake, then you can rub it out. You will also need something to colour with. I have some markers and I also have some pencils. If you have paint, you can use paint. If you have pastels, use those. Whatever you have at home to colour with. So I'm going to have my scarecrow on the left-hand side of my artwork. He'll be situated about here. And then the pumpkin patch is going to be in the background behind him. So first thing I'm going to do is focus on my scarecrow. I'm going to start with his hat, and he's going to take up a lot of this space here. So I start with a bit of a wiggly line. Not a straight line, a bit of a wiggle, and then I bring in the edges just a little bit with two little lines. Then I need to draw the top of the hat, which will have two bends in it. Remember, scarecrows wear old clothes, so they're all a little bit worn out, and wonky. I draw two lines across my hat to create a bit of a ribbon look. It's an old hat. Now I'm going to draw his head. So all I'm going to do is a big circle like that. Now I'm going to draw his smile. I'm just going to do a curved line, and scarecrows tend to be made of grain sacks or potato sacks, and their mouths are usually stitched. So I'm going to draw a few stitches for his mouth. They also sometimes have button eyes. So I'm going to draw a circle with 4 dots in it for one button. Another circle with 1, 2, 3, 4 dots for the other one. And then I might just put a circle for his nose. Alright, now their clothes are usually old jackets and old clothes. I'm going to put 2 lines going out of his head, and that's sort of going to be his collar. I'm going to put a bit of a jagged line connecting those 2 lines for his collar. Now I'm going to create his arms. So his arms will probably come a little bit off this page, so I'm going to go right to the end of the page. His sleeves are going to be a bit ripped, and then I bring his sleeve in a little bit. Going to do the same on the other side. His sleeve goes out, it's a bit ripped, comes in a little bit. Mine might not be perfect because I'm drawing it on an angle. And then the bottom of his shirt is going to be ripped as well. Very ripped. Now I'm going to draw some patches on his shirt because he's living outside in a field. He's probably getting picked up by crows and ripped up, and his top's getting ripped, so it needs to be patched up. So I'm going to draw a patch here. So I draw a line going out and then a jagged end, so it's an old patch. Might do the same here. I might do one on this side. Maybe one more patch. And what keeps scarecrows up? Well, they're usually on sticks. There's a stick holding him up. There's a stick for one arm, and this arm goes off the page, but I'll just put a line in there. Fantastic. Now for this part I am going to use a grey lead because there are some bits that I will need to rub out and there are some bits that you will need to rub out as well. So I'm going to use a grey lead, but I'm going to press really hard so that you can see it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dot over on this side of the page and I'm going to call that my point of perspective. That's the point that's in the background. And from there, I'm going to draw not a straight line, because I want it to look a little bit cartoony. I'm going to draw a curved line, which comes right over here past the scarecrow. Don't worry if you go over the scarecrow. We're using a grey lead, we can rub out our pencil marks. But I'm going to go right over here, a curved line. I'm going to do that now. Over there. Can you see that? Yes, you can. Fantastic. Then from this line again, I'm going to do another one, but it's going to be a little bit below and it's going to start spiraling out to create a sort of spiral fashion, moving out from this perspective to the edges of the paper. So you can see I start at this point and I end over here. I start at this point and I end further down, and I'm going to keep doing that so that I create lines that reach all to the outside of this page. Keep going. Make it a little bit wider. There we go. Make it a little bit wider. There we go. You can see my lines are staying curved. They all start at the same point. They're staying curved, except for when I start to reach the bottom of the page. Can you see that this point here that I finished up is below this point here, the point where I started at. Now we need to start curving the other way. So this line here has become quite straight. I'm going to start curving the other way, curving the other way, curving the other way, curving the other way. I'm still starting at the same point. There we go. Alrighty. Now if you have your rubber handy, you can go ahead and rub out those lines that have overlapped your scarecrow, because your scarecrow is in the foreground. That means he's closest to you. You're the one looking at this image, and he is closer to you than this field is. This field is in the background. Scarecrow is in the foreground. I always think foreground, front. Front, foreground. Background, back. Fantastic. Alrighty, here's our pumpkin field. I think we need a farmhouse for our pumpkin field. When you get a chance, you can go over your lines with a marker. I might do that towards the end. I need to now draw a farmhouse. So I'm going to keep it super simple. I'm going to draw the front of the farmhouse, which is going to go up. And the farmhouse is going to be at this point of perspective. Alright, up. Maybe I put a dome and down. There's the farmhouse. You can go over these lines when you get a chance. I'm going to go over them just a few of them. There we go. Here we have the door to our farmhouse. Maybe there's a window up here. Maybe there's some tiles. Maybe there's a silo in the background. Grain silo with dots going down. Look up some pictures about what a farmhouse looks like. Maybe there's a windmill over here. There we go. There's a windmill. That looks right for a farmhouse. Alrighty. Now, the reason I've stopped drawing my lines with my marker is because here we need to draw our pumpkins in our pumpkin patch. Alrighty, and the pumpkins are going to sit on top of these lines. Okay, so just like we rubbed out the lines that went through the scarecrow, we'll have to rub out the lines that go through the pumpkins. So the pumpkins are going to sit on in front of these lines. So because our scarecrow, he's in the foreground, he's at the front, he's quite big, isn't he? Compared to this farmhouse, this is quite small because this is in the very background, okay? So as we draw our pumpkins, if they are closer to the edges of the page, so getting closer to you, the viewer, they're going to be a bit bigger. And as they go along these lines into the background, they are going to get smaller. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to do them in a marker. I'm going to draw a pumpkin. It's going to be at the bottom of the page in the foreground. Your pumpkins don't have to be perfect. Mine are guaranteed to look a bit like an apple, but that's okay. For a pumpkin, we need to draw these curved lines that curve and then curve the other way. And then pumpkins have wiry vines that they grow on. Now you can see that's bigger because it's in the foreground. It's not quite as big as the scarecrow because they don't grow that big. Now if I draw one in the background, so closer to the farmhouse, it might only be this big and have a few lines. Have a go at drawing some pumpkins in the field. So remember, as they get closer to the ends of the lines, closer to you and closer to the edge of the page, they'll be bigger. As they get closer to this farmhouse, closer to the background, closer to this point of perspective, they need to be smaller. Alrighty, so we've got some pumpkins. Now I'm going to go over my lines with my marker, but I'm going to stop when I reach the pumpkin. And I'm going to continue on, stop when I reach the scarecrow. You can go over your lines with the marker as well now. Continue on. Line, stop when I reach the pumpkin. Stop when I reach the scarecrow. And those lines that I drew behind the pumpkins, the ones that I drew the pumpkins over, I can rub those out. Alrighty, so now we've got our gorgeous artwork, which is showing a scarecrow, nice and big, in the foreground. So he's bigger because he's in the foreground. Remember, front. He's at the front of the picture, closest to you, if you're looking at this scenery. Pretend you're holding a camera and you're taking this photo. The scarecrow will be closer to you. Then we've got our farmhouse. Now our farmhouse is way over in the background, the background, the very back of the artwork. That's furthest away from you, which is why it is so much smaller than the scarecrow. And then our pumpkins here are showing that as they get further into the background, further away from you, over here, way off into the background towards this farmhouse, they get smaller. This is our point of perspective. That's the furthest point away. And they're getting smaller as they reach this point. As they get further away from this point, so towards the edge of the paper, or towards you, the camera holder, the viewer, they get bigger. That's why this pumpkin is really about the size of this farmhouse, okay? The farmhouse is way over in the background. Pumpkin is closer to you, that's in the foreground. Fantastic. We can now colour this in. Alrighty, I have paused my colouring because my textures have started to run out. So I'm sure your colouring will probably look a lot better than mine because my textures, I think, are starting to all run out a little bit. I've been using them a lot over the holidays. You can colour in your field whatever different colours you want. I've gone with this sandy, dirty sort of look. So each streak is a different shade of yellow or brown to sort of mirror my scarecrow. But if you want to have a green field, absolutely fine. Use different shades of green. Completely up to you. Colour in your farmhouse. I switched to pencil for the sky, and I'm going to continue the rest of my field with my pencils because my textures have run out. Hope everyone's had lots of fun this week. Can't wait to see your beautiful scarecrows and pumpkin patches, and I'll see everyone next week.